of strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Silver-toned daddles with amps in their cases. Custom shop jazz masters, P and jazz basses. Moog modulators with angel-like rings. These are a few of my favorite things. When my job sucks and my debt stings and my life is sad, I simply remember guitar shops exist, and then I don't feel so
Welcome to the Guitar Shop Podcast, Episode 8. Coming to you from Wade's Guitar Shop here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am Wade Stark, owner of Wade's Guitar Shop.
I'm Dan Hintz.
I am Alex Ballard.
I'm not the owner of Wade's Guitar Shop.
We are coming to you from icy cold Milwaukee, Wisconsin in January of 2009. So to everybody out there, Happy New Year. Check us out online at wadesguitarshop.com. And we are on Moreau. We're in the iTunes store and podcasts. We're on Zune Marketplace. Definitely check that out. And hey, to everybody who is out there watching on iTunes, Zune, and particularly on Moreau, because we know you're watching Moreau all over the world, please leave some comments, send us some feedback. We want to know, to our Moreau listeners out there, what you think of things and where you are. So send us some info. Email you can send us at Wade's Guitar Shop, all one word, right down here somewhere. Wade's Guitar Shop at sbcglobal.net. Yeah. Whoa. There, we'll let it go.
I knew I'd overpower you.
This is the first episode of the new year, and we are going to kick it off first with a viewer email. And this comes from Dustin Ehrlich in New York City.
Oh, Dustin.
Hi, everyone. Your podcasts are really the best gear podcasts out there. I wish there were more of them available on your website. I literally just can't get enough. Very well done. My question is, I love the whole pronounce every letter accent thing that you Midwesterners have.
Oh, yeah, that.
But as a favor to your fans in New York City, where I live, can one of you guys please translate what the others are saying into the kind of English we speak here?
That's not going to be a problem, Dustin. I'll be interpreting.
If you fill your mouth with several pounds of mashed potatoes before speaking, then we New Yorkers will understand every word you say. All kidding aside, you guys are truly the best, and I want you to know that you are really enhancing the guitar playing and collecting experiences. and that was more New Jersey. And that it turns out, in turn, it helps keep our community a true community regardless of geography. Thanks for taking the time to do the podcasts, and all my best wishes to you and yours for the new year. You guys rule. Sincerely, Dustin. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, Dustin.
Let's get the bowl of mashed potatoes in here. No, we can't do it, but
we would have, but Alex ate all the mashed potatoes. Hence the indigestion.
The hiccups.
I did let Justin know, though, that we, in the shop here, do frequently butcher constantly other accents. So if anybody wants to undertake telling Dustin and his friends something that's going on in today's podcast in New Yorkese.
Okay, Dustin, what's he saying is your moolie, okay? No, I don't even know what a moolie was.
Oh, that was very Sylvester Stallone.
It was?
It was nice. Oh, thank you. Very good.
I'll work on it, and next time I'll have it nailed.
My New York is always the guys in Futurama who's always working on somethings, and he puts an S on the ends of everything he says. So tonight's podcast, yes.
Yes, this is.
And those of you in England, we'd like to say that tonight's podcast is brought to you by digestives of some nature.
Malt vinegar for your chips.
Yeah, so you can see we are horrible butchers of all forms of English and everything in between.
Thanks for that challenge. It's working out great.
It's working out great for us.
Send that one where we wear all the bikinis, all of us.
I remember when we
tight
stopped
spandex
listening to the
suits.
Guitar Shop podcast. It was January of 2009.
When they threatened to all wear bikinis, especially that one.
Yeah.
We will have to do a bikini podcast. but
Yeah.
not for a really long
Summertime.
All right.
Summertime.
So anyway,
Summertime.
Sorry.
There's no place to safe.
actually, I want to kick off the new year by bringing up. I haven't pre-discussed this with you guys because I really wanted to get a fresh take on the economy. Is absolutely in the crapper right now, particularly in the United States. It's affected the entire
You're
world.
willing to admit it?
Yes. Times are tough. Times are tough. So I thought I would get an idea from you guys of what your predictions for what the trends might be for 2009 and maybe just beyond 2009 as, the world's economies try to recover. What trends in guitar shops do you think you might see?
I think modifications and repairs. Repairs have been a huge thing, because I can't buy a new. I'm going to fix what I have, But modifications, Bigsby's, things
Right.
like that. Pickups, you can get a decent set of pickups in your guitar for under a few $100s. And it makes the guitar, kind of play like another, like a brand new guitar almost. So why spend $600 when you can spend two, or you can spend almost, under one just to get one pickup, and you're.
Well, the immediate thing that you're touching on here is what we've already discovered to a certain degree in December during the Christmas shopping season, is that we're quite a bit seeing people who are cutting down or changing the way they're spending, and we have been doing a lot of repairs and a lot of mods, and
Right.
already that has really picked up where a lot of the maybe higher end sales have gone to, is people saying, well, if I trim my budget, what can we do? And yeah, definitely, putting, Bigsby vibratos on guitars,
Sure.
pickup changing,
Pickups are huge.
yeah.
Especially when you can buy such nice, sounding pickups for under, sometimes under $50, $70. Duncan pickups almost rarely break $100.
Right.
That's huge. It really transforms an instrument. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's probably more pickup companies now than there ever have been, including even budget ones like
And
that
that's true.
DFS.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about how many different options you have now.
Freyland's doing pickups. There was a customer who came in recently that mentioned bare knuckle pickups out of
And
the
then-
UK,
What was
which
that
looked
pickup
really
you put in
interesting. Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah,
jazz box.
Vintage Classics or something like that. Yeah, it was a company
Yeah.
that I hadn't even heard of, but right, custom little handmade. Well, do you see this as a trend overall towards the boutique kind of thing? Because when
Well, yeah.
20
boutique
years
pedals,
ago
now you
when,
have-
when boutique amps came in,
Sure, sure.
who were the first couple of little boutique companies?
Top
amps.
Hat,
Yeah.
Bad Cat,
Matchless.
Matchless.
Yeah. Then they have Jens Benz.
Kendrick.
Kendrick,
Yeah, Kendrick.
Yeah, so
Riviera.
So
whatever.
is that really one of the things that's kind of filling a gap in the whole music thing right now? Is boutique blank?
Sure, sure.
Boutique pickups,
I think-
pedals, amps.
Well, pickups. You've got who's Pick Guardian is doing kind of boutique pick guards.
Yeah.
They make pick guards from scratch that are really interesting looking. So
Last 3 years, we went from selling a lot of the things that you're just used to selling, staples, like Boss and stuff like that, and DOD or whatever, and now much more specialized,
Sure.
pedals, $200 distortion pedals that, no one would have dreamed of buying.
That's the other
5
side
or
of the
6
coin.
years ago.
That's the weird irony of the other side of the coin, where it's like you can get a Boss compressor for $100, and you get a Keeley compressor for $250, and it's like in a weird economy, in an economy that's not that great, pedals have been the exception, where it's like
You get a lot of bang for
$250
your
Keeley,
buck. Yeah,
I gotta have it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
that's the one part.
It is like
that's
just a
really-
new pickup is a lot of bang for the buck. A new pedal like that's a lot of bang for it. It's a lot of excitement,
Sure.
Buying a, $2,300 guitar is exciting too, but you can't do it every day of the week. And,
Right.
it's like, I don't know.
Well, and in all aspects, I think really we're starting to notice boutique tuning keys, boutique strings, boutique
Waverleys.
guitar picks.
Sure. Sure.
The availability.
Straps, soldier
Oh,
straps kill, handmade straps.
Yeah.
I mean, when she came in, we sell these straps that are all handmade by a couple in Chicago, and when she came in and was showing them, I was like, oh yeah, these are nice, really well made and everything. And she's like, yeah, this one's $30 cost, and this one's $50, but it's new old stock fabric. And I was kind of going, yeah, And then it's like we just can't keep them on the rack.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
I think maybe that's the trend is people are willing to pay about $300 for what they want. I mean, maybe, between $150 and $300 is kind of the area where it's like, that's acceptable, to drop money, on something. And, because you look at where, boutique pedals kind of, for the most part max out at about $300. So people are willing to go, well, I'm going to go from the expensive thing, or the compressor that's $100. I'm willing to spend up to $200, but for something that was $500, I want to spend more, like, I mean, it's like it keeps kind of falling into this area of,
Right.
$150 to $300, where it's like that's kind of where you want to be. And
Yeah, and
that's great.
there was in the
I mean,
market that was not a big piece of the pie 5 or 6 years ago. I don't think.
Well, next weekend, starting next Thursday, is the NAMM show in Anaheim, the big convention for all the manufacturers and distributors of the world to show their wares.
Right.
Do you think they're going to be ahead of the curve? I mean, what about companies like Martin, Taylor, Paul Reed Smith? When you're bringing to the show, the Paul Reed Smith Dragon, whatever their Dragon for '09 might be, or
Right.
the $20,000 Brazilian Rosewood Martin or Taylor for 2009. Are these guys going to be able to get ahead of the curve fast enough to deal with what's
I don't
going on?
know.
Or
I think it may be a mistake to think that I'm going to make the most extravagant, beautiful masterpiece guitar that I've ever made, and it's going to be so expensive, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be so great. And with the economy, it doesn't matter because people are just going to buy it anyway. I think that's going to be a huge mistake. I think, kind of throwing more money, not more money, but more, design feature and features towards like a Santana line when you're PRS. Great.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
add more
that's a good
value
point.
to the
That's a
things that
good
people
point.
can afford.
A lot of these, you take Paul Reed Smith, and all their SE models, they seem to be doing really well and all that.
the imports?
Yeah, the import ones.
Import
and
stuff
it's
seems to be
like
great,
you
yeah.
can. It's like, should I get a 10 top, custom 24 with this, that, and the other is $3,800.
But this year,
is.
since the economy's bad,
Yeah.
we're going to do it like, it's not going to be a 10 top. It's going to be like a number one top, like that would be bad.
Right.
But is the
what I was
import-
going to say is that they buy, there's instead of the person who might have bought that guitar a few years back, they buy the import, and then they put hand-wound pickups in it, and personalize it a with and maybe it's not as nice as
I think that's a smart way
the
to go.
$3,800, or the Faded series, or for Gibson and some of these.
I don't
sort
think
of
there's
like-
any shame in going, you know what? It's still made by the same company. It may not have this big shiny finish on it. It's a nice guitar. It plays well, And on the other side, Mexican Fenders.
Right.
Right. I mean, I think there's a lot of value in a Mexican Fender, and I think they're just quality is there.
Right.
But I think some of the import stuff is going to miss it, though, because the market is flooded with particularly Chinese-made guitars, to a certain degree with Korean, but there's so much of that, I think, is trying to fill a niche market that there's only so many people looking for, all of these funky little, weird off-brand, Chinese guitars that are coming in. The Mexican Fenders, I like that because they're filling their own gap where the Japanese reissues were. So a lot of the really quality reissues from Fender are coming from Mexico now, but they're awesome. So I mean,
They're
it's
amazing.
it's
People
your-
look at tags and they're like, it's Mexican. Like that's a crazy reaction to seeing that
Yeah.
it's Mexican.
Yeah.
That's nuts because they're great.
Yeah, they're really well done.
But one of the areas that I think that Fender and Gibson are both touching on right now that I think might be a really great way for them to take advantage of giving the people what they want during hard times, and that is like the Gibson Faded series,
Huge fan.
the Fender Highway 1 series. It's American made, which a lot of people like the fact that guitars like that are American made, but cheap.
You know, it's almost an advantage getting, well, to touch on the Highway 1 thing, because lacquer. Everyone's so gaga over lacquer. I mean, it needs to be lacquer. And well, they should be. I mean, lacquer is an amazing thing to finish a guitar with. The Highway 1 is about what a high-end Mexican goes for, and it's acrylic lacquer. It's a highly resonant guitar. It's made in America.
Yeah.
I can't see where the flaw is.
No,
you know?
exactly.
And it's affordable. You know, it's better than, you know, I'm not going to say better than, you know, the top of the line American Fender, but it's one hell of a deal. You know.
Well, and for me, the top of the line American Fender, I'm not going to dig the pickups that are in there anyway, so I'm going to take them out. So why not get the Highway 1 and take those pickups out,
Sure.
which are definitely coming out of there, you know,
yeah.
and just put some decent pickups in there and personalize it a little. And,
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
Well, in the quest for tone, I mean, you bring up that point, is that a lot of our customers do automatically, by default, when they buy a guitar, say, pickup's got to go.
yeah.
So, like Fender's, you know, mainstream pickup is not high enough output, or it's not rich enough sounding for them. I mean, for the real diehards, you know, they're going to go for Seymour Duncan Antiquities or something like that. So, I mean, yeah, if we're talking like a Highway 1 Strat or the Faded series with Gibsons, you know, you take the stock Gibson pickups out and put in, you know, Seymour Duncan Antiquities or something like that. Yeah, you have made a very minimal investment in a guitar, and you're going to make it sound like a 62 SG.
Right, exactly.
And you customize it to make, you know, to sound exactly the way you like it too. And there's a real personal thing going on there,
Yep.
you know, which is nice.
Well, we'll track the trends. I mean, we'll try and keep reporting throughout the year, because the way the economy is going, I think this is a really interesting story. Where these companies are going to go, who's going to survive, you know, how's everybody going to come out of this, and will everybody come out of this?
In a broader sense, I think, you know, like you were saying, Taylor, Martin, some of these companies, I think some of these smaller boutique companies or expensive guitar companies that have thrived in the past are probably going to go either, you know, I think the strong will survive and the weak will fall by the wayside, you know.
Right.
And I don't know how, you know, I've heard different things about some of the big box stores and stuff too. I wonder how they're going to fare the next couple of years. I mean, obviously they have, you know, tons of money and whatever, but you know, how you can also lose tons of money.
Oh,
in
the
one
margins
fell
the
swoop.
margins
Yeah.
must be narrow for the big boxes.
Right. So I'm curious to see whether there'll be another, you know, a renaissance of small shops like this propping up again, or whether, you know, I don't think we've seen the last of the corporate style of music, but you know, I think people are going to really have to, you know,
Right.
I think service-oriented places are going to do better than
It helps.
You know,
yeah, it's
yeah.
definitely the backbone. Well, on the note about the Gibson Fadeds, have you got your guitar right over here?
I do.
You have an
Wait,
SG
it's over here.
The next story we're going to jump to is we've decided to
Case in point.
bring in and talk about actually our personal guitars. We each brought in one of our favorite guitars. We all have several instruments, but
Of course.
our homework was to bring in one of our favorites, and pretty much everything that we own, we mod. I mean, nobody's content with anything off the rack. So we were talking about the Faded. So this is Dan's personal SG Faded. Why don't you give us the lowdown?
You know, it's dynamite about these guitars. I mean, like you said, they are U.S. made. This, a lot like the Highway 1, does not have a huge or really thick finish on it. I mean, it is a lacquer finish, but it's not real buffed out, and it's, you know, you see a lot of grain, you know, and you can feel, I mean, and visually, you know, see a lot of grain
Right.
in the wood, you know, which is kind of cool. That the reason why I was kind of attracted to this model SG was because of the brown finish and the way it looked, because, you know, I knew a guy, I had a buddy who worked in another music store who had a 70s SG that looked almost, I mean, the finish on that guitar was almost identical to this. And I'd always been envious of this guitar because it was beautiful. I mean, it was worn in so great. And
Was it a Firebrand one or the SG?
I don't think it was a fire. I mean, I think it had the straight headstock, so I think it was a pretty old SG.
Mhm.
I mean, Wade would probably know more about. I mean, it
What do you
didn't
mean
have
straight?
the.
It wasn't
It wasn't
tilted, or
flanged
was
out like that. It was a skinny headstock.
That was an SG Junior then, right? Or
Well,
SG.
what kind of pickups did it have?
Well, the pickup, that was the sort of weird
It was
part.
already modded?
It was already modded, yeah. It had a lace pickup in it and a humbucker here. But at any rate, I mean, it was just such a gorgeous guitar.
Could have been the Gibson Melody Maker here. Could have been the SG1 or the SG2 or the SG100. So possibilities there.
I'll take all three. Yeah.
But I ended up with... No, it was just a gorgeous guitar. So, I mean, I've always kind of had a yen for having, you know, something that looked similar to it, and this totally nailed it. I mean, it's such a nice feeling and playing and sounding guitar. I mean, of course, I did have to put a Bigsby on it, which I can't live without any sort of vibrato.
God bless you for that.
That
Did
was.
you swap pickups in there too?
Yeah, I did to an extent. No, this pickup is the
Yo,
stock
Dustin,
pickup.
he put a Bigsby on
I
there.
put a freaking Bigsby on it. Tell you what, you know.
That's
So,
fabulous.
Hey, Tony, put a Bigsby on there. Tell him, go tell Mama.
This, you know.
Go tell Mama.
No, this is the stock neck pickup, but the pickups that come stock on here don't have nickel covers on them. So
See,
I did
little tweak, little visual tweak.
right, little visual tweak.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, now it looks, you know, sort of more AC/DC. So, and then I had a DiMarzio Tone Zone pickup laying around.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. It's a tone,
Tone
it's
zone.
the tone
Tony,
zone.
it's a tone zone. Yeah.
It's the Tony Zone. Hey.
All right, Mama, you bring the toes on.
At any rate,
Mazio calzone.
my favorite thing about it, though, is that the Tone Zone was a 4-conductor pickup that I wired for normally to be parallel.
Whoa, whoa, four
like that.
conductors.
4 conductors.
You got four
At
conductors.
the same time. Anyway. No, and I got that idea from, I was reading something about a Les Paul that Joe Walsh sold or gave to
He doesn't remember.
Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
So anybody know anything about this?
Hey,
The story sounds familiar.
A lot of the Led Zeppelin solo, I mean, you know, like the solo, the big thing is the solo for Stairway to Heaven was recorded with a Telecaster. You
Was
know,
it?
and I was always thinking, oh, how does he get, I mean, he's so,
was it still?
it was, I guarantee it was. But at any rate,
Well, we'll have to get to the
What's the official word over here?
Strat is
Oh,
what
Strat.
our
Strat,
our resident expert.
at any rate, I got that idea from that article or whatever, so I wired it in such a way so that, yeah, I've got parallel here, so it basically sounds like a regular single coil pickup, which I'm a huge, the other guitars I play are Telecasters, you know, so I needed something that would match a Telecaster pretty closely, but I've also put said switch right here
Oh.
that brings it back to humbucker mode, so I can still,
You got a
Well,
small
series
switch
series
too?
humbucker.
serious humbucker.
Series parallel.
Yeah.
Series here, parallel here. Parallel is like when two Strat pickups are on together. Parallel is like
Yeah.
series is like standard humbucker.
It's a beautiful thing. It sounds so good. So yeah, I mean,
Say
you know,
hello to
the way I've normally got it, I mean, you know, unsuspectingly it looks like he's playing a full humbucker. No, I mean, it really sounds like a single coil, but it does hum cancel because it is in parallel. So, but no, I mean, I do have the option of just, you know, bringing this tone knob back up, and boom, it's, you know, full humbucker, and it sounds like a, you know, a pretty heavy, you know, heavy output guitar. So I'm down with it. I mean,
affordable guitar and minimal mods.
Yeah,
And with
it's
the
not
Bigsby
used.
and the pickup, you
Bought used here at the store.
You bought it less than, I mean, you paid less than you could have gotten an SG Standard.
Yeah, these are $900 new. I think we had it tagged at the store for $650, something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, I saved, you know, a couple $100, you know, and had, you know, parts just laying around, you know, covers I got from the store here. So I mean, really, you know, you look, you know, $650, you know, $680 at the end of the day,
Yeah.
done. You know, and you've got a killer SG.
Customized to your specs.
I'm way into it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, definitely.
Alex, what do you got?
Oh, well, I brought along, I was very torn trying to figure out which guitar
Hey,
I
hey!
wanted to bring in. So I brought the one in that I probably had the longest. I was trying to think of, out of all of my guitars, which one I've had the longest, and I think it's this. It's a Japanese Jaguar, sort of. It's an A series.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably 90s.
No, it's probably late 80s.
I don't know if it's that old. Well, we'll find out how old it is. But anyway, it's a guitar that I've had sort of the longest. Yes, that's
the squeaky trim arm.
yeah, the squeaky trim arm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got one of that too.
So yeah, a Jaguar. This was kind of my first, not my first, but one of my kind of compromises or attempts at kind of becoming a Fender guy. I had a Les Paul Custom with 3 pickups and an SG Custom with 3 pickups and a whole bunch of other guitars with 3 pickups. But I found this Jaguar used, routed already for 2 humbuckers, and I said, hey, it's short.
Turn it up towards
Yeah, it's short.
It's shiny.
These are, what's 24.9 or something like that, or 24?
24.
24-inch
24
scale.
scale.
So it's kind of a short scale, unlike a Strat and a Tele are a little bit longer than a Gibson. I was mostly used to kind of playing Gibson scale guitars.
Standard Fender's 25 and a half.
Yeah.
So this is like a Mustang, 24-inch
So,
scale.
yeah, it's even shorter than a Gibson, but it's not much of a jump to go to this when you're sort of used to playing Gibsons, and plus it already had the humbuckers in it, and so I think initially I had a friend of mine do a little bit of a modification at the bridge here. People always talk about how strange the bridges are, and so I decided to do some wacky stuff here and put this little retaining bar down here. There's a device called a buzz stop that a lot of people put in. This is actually just a piece of really hard steel with a couple of screws that go right into the mounting plate here, just to get some string angle. And then I have a shallow roller bridge in here, which just gives it a really nice smooth feel to it, and it stays in tune great. It's just it ended up actually being a really great way to do it. And then in later, when I started working for Wade, and we started talking mods and stuff like that, we decided to kind of trick it out a little bit more, so we routed it for a 3rd pickup here, and this is a Seymour Duncan Fat Cat, which is a like humbucker-sized P90. I really wanted a P90. And so we sort of gutted out the wiring, and the pickup and the neck and the bridge are both DiMarzio Super Distortion humbuckers, which are pretty high-output humbuckers. So what we did to kind of along the lines of what Dan was doing, just to get sort of some different tones happening, the 2 roller switches up here that would normally do God knows what on a real Jaguar.
Volume and tone
for the neck position pickup. On this guitar,
And God knows what they do now.
that is what they do now.
Alex, I don't know either.
I'm trying to remember. No, so these 3 switches turn the pickups on. You've got your all 3 pickups on right now, or just one, or just all 3. These roller switches actually act as coil taps for the high output neck and high output bridge pickup, vice versa. So when you split them, you end up with about an 8K single coil. So you get a real nice sort of beefy single coil Fendery, traditional Fendery kind of sound. And then you can sort of slowly, progressively roll the other coil in and get a more radical, heavier sound. And then this is a little bass filter, a little bass cut that we threw in there. And it's just a kind of a neat piece that we've sort of customized, and it has a bazillion tonal possibilities. And yeah.
I love it.
What you got, Wade?
What I got? You want to grab my hominy?
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 Ritz?
This is one of my beasts. I'm definitely a sucker for the old Sears catalog guitars. This is a mid-60s Harmony Stratotone. Single pickup model, and it was given to me as a gift by Ron and Ryland, a couple of good customers who know what a fanatic I am for these things. Hollow body, similar to a Dan Electro. You know, it's a top and back. In this case, our laminated maple on top of pine sides, completely hollow on the inside. The original DeArmond pickup fried shortly after I got it, and I have a couple of backups because I love these old skinny little floating DeArmonds, so I put a different one on there. I had to put a Bigsby on too, so I had laying in one of my drawers this just crazy old Guild Bigsby, which I've never seen on any model guitar, so I don't know if this was a prototype that Bigsby had made for Guild or if this actually at any point did appear on a Guild guitar, but it's very cool with the...
I love how it hangs out the back there. It looks
Little rocket
kind of
ship.
like a fish ready to eat my finger.
I got a banjo armrest on here. I added a second layer of pickguard to it, partly for cosmetic reasons, but some of these old pick guards, they actually build up a static charge, and as you play, they crackle as your fingers scrape across them. So I put a different piece of plastic on my pick guard there to reduce that crackling.
Wait, can I see?
Yes. I also do.
You can show me later.
I do a mod to my Bigsby's where I grind off the little nub where normally the arm would stop right about there based on this little nub on the Bigsby, but I grind that off so I can roll my arm completely around. That way while I'm playing.
Like Pete Townsend.
Guitar Tech. You'll be hearing that one.
No drop D?
But that way when I play, I can always have the arm kind of in my palm while I'm playing. And it's all,
Nice.
so, unlike your standard Bigsby that stops there, I like the way that kind of rolls going. Banjo armrest is mostly a cosmetic thing, although the sharp edges on guitars sometimes can be a little annoying on your arm.
Nice
Yeah,
touch.
did you want to look at the pick card?
How's the weight on that damn?
What weight?
About 4 pounds.
Exactly.
Not easy. Yeah, that Bigsby thing is nice.
Wiggle bar.
Yeah, mine gets
Stuck.
stuck.
Yeah, that over there.
Yeah, that's a mod that I've done on most of mine.
The other toy, what I brought in, we all brought in one of our favorite effects pedals, and this is I think it's about late '60s, maybe 1970-ish Maestro phaser, which they just do not make pedals like this
No, they
anymore.
Sound-wise or function-wise?
So yeah, it has these big rollers on the side for controlling what they call balls and speed, or speed and intensity. The great thing about it is you put your shoe on there while you're playing. You can just roll those to completely change your setting. To turn this on, you
Very
stop.
Planet of the Apes.
You stop on the whole pedal. The switch is internal, so you're pressing this whole giant thing down to turn it on and off.
Like a robot foot.
It is. It's totally like the big giant robot foot. Yeah.
What I like is the axe on the back there.
Yeah. There's
You plug your axe in here.
yeah the axe and the amp.
Which is which?
My little battery compartment I've taken off so that I can put the battery
Put a bunch of
jumper on
wires in
here
there.
to go into my to my power supply. The only downfall to something like this is it's not true bypass. So what I do is
Can you mod it for true bypass?
we probably could, and I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
Currently, what I
I'll
do
get back to you.
is I have it hooked up to a little looper, so I can turn on a separate effects loop using a Boss line selector.
Oh, but because it's not true bypass, is it
Oh, it darkens the tone terribly
Oh, it does.
when you turn
like
it off.
old wah pedals?
Yes.
Yeah, big deal.
But-
You don't need that original.
But
Extra
it's
tone
it's
anyway,
awesome,
yeah.
and the phase. You know, seriously, there is only one phaser that I think I've ever heard that's better than this or more unique than this, and I think you and I agree on this. Is the phaser that was built into PV amplifiers
Yes.
in the '70s? I don't know what they did, but if they could turn that in,
Put it in a pedal.
hardly please put
Please.
that '70s.
It'd have to be a
amp
pedal
phaser.
at least that
It
big
had
to
to-
have the huge transformer. Of
Yes.
Have the PV in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has the longest phase time of it. It's like you could play a whole gig and the phaser would never completely.
It's so.
It's awesome. Yeah.
My favorite is this little hockey puck with
Knobs on it.
knobs on it and little switches. I believe the company who makes this is Bixonics.
Right.
Bixonic?
Bixonic?
Bixonic, Japanese company. And I mean, these kind of became popular in the 90s because Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top was playing these, but they kind of went through a bunch of cosmetic changes. But this, an Expandora, it's basically a distortion pedal, but it's got these little dip switches on it that will kind of make it do all these sort of weird different gain configurations. Basically, there's like two gain stages. There's gain 1, gain 2, and there's a low and high. And then they've also put on this little switch on there for to possibly be used with bass guitar. They've kind of beefed up the bass on it, but I use bass guitar mode for guitar because it kind of makes it sound more like like a nice British amp, like a Marshall, an Orange amp, something like that. It's amazing. It's tiny. It's about $150.
It's way cool.
it's way great.
Well,
yeah.
And versatile. Yeah.
And super versatile.
And you ordered it from, I mean, we carry Godlike pedals, who was distributing us, and you ordered it and decided you wanted a backup.
I wanted another one. I called them back up, and they said, no, it's discontinued.
He got the last one.
So I called up Musician's Friend right away, who had some in stock, and I was like, please send me one. So this is number 2 of one, and one is on my pedal board. And I kind of have a habit of buying 2 of things that I really cannot live without. And this is definitely something that people should check out, because a lot of people don't know that this thing exists, and it's just...
Well, it doesn't anymore.
It kind of doesn't, yeah. But
it's in the ether.
Yeah, I played rat pedals for a real long time, which I thought were really nice, natural sounding. This just kills it. Yeah. This is great. So, yeah, have one last look before it's discontinued.
This one is not for sale.
This little pedal is the very rare Super-DUPER
Overdrive.
The Boss Super-DUPER Overdrive.
The Super Overdrive, but this is which is the SD1. This is the Boss. Are you closing in on this? Boss Super-DUPER Overdrive.
It's the SD11.
It's the SD11. It goes to 11.
You can make your own if you have a Sharpie.
All you need is a Sharpie and a little bit of
weird knobs.
Anyway, but it actually is not what it seems to be, actually. Trying to make a long story short, we had various customers who were coming in with pedals that had been modded by Analog Man and Keeley and different companies like that. And Dan and I both were kind of like, and like, I sent this to this dude in California, and I gave him $400, and he sent it back, and now the tone knob doesn't work. Awesome. So we were just like,
which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, which is fine. But no, literally, there was a guy
totally
who had paid for this mod, and it involved how the tone knob no longer functioned as part of the mod.
The LED wasn't
really
green, though.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, but you got a cool LED, So, and guys were paying this extra money, and so then we kind of went online and looked around to see, what some of the nature of some of these mods were, and there's a bunch of great resources where people were talking about different things that they'd tried and so on. And so Dan pulled out the solder gun and yanked the circuit board out of this thing, and
we were feeling dangerous one night.
Feeling dangerous.
When
It was
Wade
a little
wasn't
slow that
around.
summer.
Alex got out the Sharpie.
I got out the Sharpie and handled the visual attributes of this fine machine.
Yeah,
that one's gone through a lot of different changes.
Yeah, we actually started out by just doing a real basic thing, which I think we decided to just take a resistor out or a diode out, and just to see what would happen, and it just freaked out. And we called
like
it
a fuzz pedal.
It made it act really erratically. And Dan played the song "Working Man" by Rush on it, and it sounded exactly like that.
Perfect.
So we called it perfect. We called it the Working Man mod because it would just turn your guitar into Alex Life's, and it was awesome. But it was kind of a weird one. So the more he started digging into things and reading stuff, we started trying a few other different types of things. And I think what we did was we took some of the we replaced the original. This has LEDs in it. We took the original ICs out, or what?
There is a section in the circuit board that is comprised of diodes that actually clip, and that's where your distortion is coming from. And if you
took the
there's 3 in a Super Overdrive pedal. I'm going to get real geeky here, and that's called.
If you'd like a schematic of this, by the way, stop by the shop and bring Dan a 6-pack of Strongbow, and we'll talk
and about
$400.
5-pack of Strongbow. That's about all I can handle. But at any rate, no, I changed that pedal to what they call symmetrical clipping, which is only 2 diodes kind of working against each other, to create the clipping. So that's the first thing, but those diodes I changed to light-emitting diodes, the LEDs.
Right.
And then I changed the gain section of that pedal. I beefed it up to get more gain. Those LEDs cut back on the gain. The gain section made that back up, and then I put the bass boost on it, which is the switch, and that for some reason, because I'm not an electrical genius, happens to make it sound more like a fuzz pedal. So
it kind of
happy accident.
Yeah, it kind of gates out a little bit. So it has 2 sort of distinct tones. The thing, this is one of my favorite pedals, and I'm the owner of approximately 11 or 12 distortion boxes, but
probably 13
maybe more than that, I don't know. But I've also owned a lot of them over the years.
And they're all on his pedal.
And they're all
That is one heck of a pedal.
That is one heck of a pedal. But I've owned this actual pedal, Super Overdrive. I don't know how many times. I've probably owned 5 of them over the years, is my best guess. But one of the things that always kind of, not with every guitar, but in certain settings, when I wanted to like less gain and more output, it just ran out of gas. So with the mods that Dan did, I can run it real clean and use it almost like a booster. Another thing about the Super Overdrive was in certain amps it sounded too thin, believe it or not. But the bass boost can make up for some of that. And yeah, it just makes it much more natural and amp-like, and so it's one of my favorite pedals. It's real cool.
Awesome.
Super-DUPER.
At the end of the podcast, we'll show some quick demos of our guitars and our favorite pedals. But as for now, we're gonna bid you adieu. This is the end of episode 8 of the Guitar Shop podcast.
Who knew?
I knew. The clock knew. I want to thank everybody for checking into the beginning of 2009. Check out the podcast notes on the website. It's waitguitarshop.com. Click on the podcast link and check out the notes for each of the podcasts. All the other old podcasts, 1 through 7, are on there too. If you have questions and comments, please send them to us to waitguitarshop@spcglobal.net. And on behalf of myself, Wade from Wade Guitar Shop,
Dan.
Alex.
we'd like to thank you all very much for tuning in. And again, for those of you around the world on all these other ways of tuning us in, please send us an info where you are and what you think of the podcast.
We're watching.
I'd like to thank Ed.
Thank you.
Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Anthony, our instructor here at the shop, thanks for
And
popping in.
resident
Check out the
Zeppelin
podcast this week. Episode 8. I guess it's in the can. We are out.
I guess so. Yeah.
Good job, Liz. Good job.
But no, check it out. That's how it's normally set for me. How insane is that? Well, check this out.